Hello.
Welcome, everybody, to another EOS talk on the Beyond Bitcoin Network. Today is Saturday, June 16th, 2018, and I am Fuzzy. I am joining, as I do every week, these hangouts that we offer to not only give some updates on the community initiatives that we run and some of the ways that we're utilizing this blockchain technology known as delegated proof of stake and cross-chain synergy, but also to provide an opportunity for people who are in the EOS ecosystem or building projects that are substantially helping or directly helping EOS to offer them a place to be able to vocalize what they're doing, to be able to discuss what they think is important in the space, and to give updates on what they think that they need to be the direction they think that we need to be going. So we try to provide this as a public service, an open kind of avenue where anybody can RSVP, earn some tokens, and tell people a little bit about what they're doing. A lot of the time, people who are doers don't necessarily recognize the fact that they need to tell people what they're doing. It's an important thing to be able to have a community that can actually join up, can listen, can tell people about the people who are doing cool things in the ecosystem, support them in the ways that they can. And we like to open this platform as kind of a blank slate for that specific reason. So with that said, we are joined this week, as always, by a guest speaker or by a project that we are talking about or specific topics of thought. But tonight we have EOS Tribe that's joining us, and that's going to be Anna Taylor, who's the head of the community for EOS Tribe, and Adam Elmastehi, community lead. I hope I got it right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Of EOS Tribe and co-founder of QOQO. We did have Cypherglass, who signed up as well. I do not think they're going to be here tonight, so just heads up, I will be unvoting those. Nothing against the Cypherglass guys. I do want to reward people when they join up. So I do reward them with cryptocurrencies for joining up and discussing, but I do want to make sure that people sign up on the days that they're going to be here so we don't have any confusion. So just a lesson and an opportunity to teach everybody a little bit. So with that said, we do generally go over really quickly just showing everybody the EOSTalk Forums, if you guys want to show them that real quick. And we'll dive in pretty quickly into this. I don't want to take too much time because we do show the EOSTalk Forums every week. And we will talk just really quickly and look at the price. So as you guys can see on the forums, these are forums that are based on delegated proof of stake technology. They run off the Steam blockchain presently, but very potentially could become a chain of their own, backed by a chain of their own, a DAC of their own. And it is something that I have in my mind that it would be important for us to do in the future. As you can see on here, you can actually see the price of EOS. You can see our Discord right in there, and you can join up and become part of the Discord directly from there. And when you are on these forums, you're actually on decentralized forums that, although there is moderation, you can never truly hide content. So there is, the ability to get rid of things that are obviously abuse within the forums, but we have the opportunity to provide blockchain-based forums that do not stall the network like CryptoKitties did for Ethereum. So I don't say that to be mean. We chuckle, and it's kind of true, but the fact of the matter is, it's important if you're holding tokens, everybody, that the chain will scale to do the things that you need it to do when you need it to do them. And we like to show people as opposed to just tell them. So we like to show you these tools so you can show people, hey, this is actually working right now on a blockchain, right? If we can show people use cases, it's thousands of words, right? So with that said, we do have also the cross-chain initiatives that we create. We use our cross-chain tokens for every week. And I guess we could probably go into that, SVP. I don't want to talk too much about the price today. Well, what I'll say about the price is it could go lower, guys. If Bitcoin goes down lower, a lot of support is at 5,000 on Bitcoin, around the 5,000 mark. I don't think it's going to go below that, but if Bitcoin goes lower, EOS might go lower. Just warning everybody. And with that, I'll leave it at that. But let's go ahead, SPP. You are the initiative king who really helps to coordinate all the initiatives that we do weekly. Do you have any updates on the initiatives that you would like to give out?
Yeah, be really quick this week because I basically let the initiatives we had running, which were more of the EOS fan art, for the launch. I let those initiatives kind of run their course. So we ended those last week, and we gave out the rewards for those as well. And kind of taking a pause. I didn't set up another initiative right behind that one, but I'm thinking probably tomorrow, once we get through this EOS talk tonight, because it'll be part of the discussion tonight, which has to do with the voting portals. So we'll probably launch our next initiative to have people go out there and write a post about their favorite voting portal and why, and that'll be the initiative we set up to kind of get that word out, see what people are using, portals of choice, come in, tell about their experience, write a post about it, and they'll just earn, for that. So that'll be our next initiative that we have up and running, but I wanted to kind of sync that up with tonight's show. So really short and sweet tonight for that.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's a very important one, and I think it also goes in line with one of the topics that we were discussing earlier, and we might get into actually a little bit further in this discussion. But with that said, thank you, SPP, for everything you do, and I want to just tell everybody thank you for participating in these initiatives. We always have a great turnout. We always have people doing great things and providing a lot of value for various projects. And I do want to give an update on the tulips one real quick while we're here. There have been some issues that I'm trying to iron out to make sure that the people who were rewarded tulips tokens are rewarded with what they are supposed to be backed by. I offer this as a service to them to distribute and do the contests as we do. And I'm in contact trying to reach out to G, who was the coordinator of all this, to make sure that all that's set up. And I'll give you guys all updates in the future. But I do want to let everybody know that if you do not get rewarded for some odd reason, I will be rewarding you guys in EOS bits as a thank you regardless. So just to keep that there and to let everybody know, I'm not going to let you guys, if there is something that happens that gets in the way of you being rewarded, we'll make sure that you're made right. Now, with that said, I want to very much thank you guys for joining us from the EOS Tribe team, because right now we're in the earliest days of the chain. You guys did a lot of great work. The Tulip Conference was amazing for the work that you guys did. I've had, I personally had a blast. I'm glad you guys got me to come and talked me into coming. But you guys have been up to a lot of other good stuff, and you have a couple announcements tonight. You have some community initiatives. So why don't you guys first, if you could give just a quick introduction to yourselves and how you got to EOS and what you're doing now.
Okay. I guess I'll go first. My name is Anna Taylor, and I'm head of community for EOS Tribe. My background is in communications, mass communications, and PR and advertising. And I have a 7-year experience in agency, so digital marketing agency experience. And then I have about 8 years experience in video TV production. So communication is kind of like, I guess, my focus and all of that. And then also the type of communication, which would bring in the layer of PR, public relations of the communication. So I guess that being said, I was brought into EOS by Steve Floyd. He's my significant other. And he, I guess, got me started into it through Steemit and DTube and DSound. Because I'm a content creator, and I just really was drawn to the idea that I could be paid for my content instead of being paid for content I create for other people that get advertising money for that. just the idea in general was like, wow, this is revolutionary. It's the people have value, you know, and I completely stand behind that. So as I was getting into that, he's like, well, if you love that, you're going to love EOS. And, and as soon as I got in there, I kind of fell into this like rabbit hole of excitement and it, you know, and then there's the Constitution, so there's some confusion, but then you read about it and it's pretty self-explanatory. And I just fell in love with the community. So I guess that's my short intro. Adam has a more interesting one, of course.
Well, I actually kind of like that intro. I think that digital marketing and how that all plays into cryptocurrency is a pretty powerful thing, actually. And considering that we need more ladies who are nerds in the space, it's always nice to hear the perspectives of a lady who's also a digital marketing master or somebody who's spent a lot of their time doing that. Those are two things that I think we need in our space to really help get the word out and to get the word out to everybody, you know, including a demographic that generally might not always be enamored with cryptocurrency and might consider it the thing that takes their boyfriend away from them. I only say that from personal experience with my wife at times, but she loves crypto a little bit more these days. But all joking aside, please step up. I don't mean to interrupt or anything. So if you guys want to continue, and Adam, if you want to step up and give your introduction, feel free to go ahead and do so.
Okay, yeah. So, hi guys, my name is Adam. So I'm the community lead over at EOS Tribe and the co-founder of Coco. So what drew me to EOS was, what drew me to blockchain in general was coming from a background of neuroscience and economics. It was interesting to see how blockchain kind of takes in like social problems and economic problems, and it kind of solves those problems in one, and it's like unique that it's run by the users that are trying to. So it's like the more users, the more these problems get solved, and it's kind of like a self-regulating, like self-thinning, like technology, I guess. And I thought that this is something that is like really unique. And I was watching blockchain for a while, kind of just as like an outsider. And then I remember seeing EOS like in the very beginning, and then I saw Dawn 2.0 come out, and I was like, okay, let me look into this. And then I started to see like Dan's work on Steemit and BitShares, and I was like, okay, yeah, this guy, you know, Dan the man. So like he's a smart guy, and I started to really look into EOS, and I started to kind of dive into it more. And the way he's thought of it and the scale and like the way he's created it for scalability compared to like something like Ethereum, it's just, I don't think micropayments are it's just not something that's like critical to adoption. It's like the complete opposite, because like for micropayments you have to require like some kind of trust that you're assuming that for every single time you pay that you're going to actually get something worth it, and to like there's just too much that micropayments would deter. And I think EOS was just the complete opposite, and is just way easier for like just adoption in general. And that's why I fell in love with EOS. And then I saw Steve like all around, like all over the community, and then I had my idea of Coco, and then I reached out to Steve, and this was just from when it was like an idea in my head to just like finally getting it down into words, and then I reached out to Steve, and Steve really like kind of like really helped me take this from an idea to like where we are now. Like he's helped me flesh it out. He's like from a mentorship. Sorry, I was reading the question.
Oh, no, don't. Yeah, from a mentorship perspective, I think you're going to say.
Yeah, from a mentorship, like as a mentor, Steve has helped me a lot, and he's not like the normal traditional mentorship like structure you would think. It's not like it's not like a hierarchical thing. Like the way Steve like acts and the way everything is, like the dynamic is he sees you as an equal, and it's just like guidance. And to be honest, I don't want to get into too many specifics about what I've seen, but what he's told me to avoid, and I've seen other like things being created going down that route, and I see the walls that they hit. And this is Steve like a couple months back telling me, do not go down that route. And it's like Steve's awesome. But to continue to answer that, figure out how to pull up the question. So I think micropayments as a one payment service wouldn't. I don't think it would. It's such a hindering to adoption because you have to assume that every single person, even though it is a micropayment, like to assume that that person has your best interest in mind every single time you pay, it's most likely your interests are not always going to be aligned, and you're going to get hurt. And when the one time you get burned by that, you're almost going to feel deterred from participating in these micropayment services for the future of them. And it's like hard to build. Like there's really great applications out there, but just because there's like the network fees and like the premium to decentralization, and you have to pay that premium every single time, I don't think it's something that's like gonna.
Oh, I think I see what you're saying. I think you're saying in the context of the framework of crypto that exists right now, micropayments is something that they can't even really do sufficiently.
Yeah,
exactly. which I would tend to very much agree with. And I think that's actually what we've been sitting here waiting for this technology to grow a little bit more, despite the fact that we saw people throwing money into what I personally consider a black hole. I mean, I continue saying it, like, I don't say this to be mean. I'm just going to tell you, like, when a CryptoKitties DApp clogs your network, your enterprise network, you have to question whether you're an enterprise network. I just by definition, I mean, I generally a primary server will do these things, right? So we're at the place where now with EOS and that these types of things are being closer, are getting a lot closer, right? Steam and BitShares both have well over 1 million transactions a day average, which is like each of them is basically like all of the rest of crypto combined for each of them. I think it's
like three quarters of all blockchain transactions are on Steam and BitShares.
Yes. So it's like how long can the industry not recognize the elephant in the room before it starts becoming so obvious to everybody, kind of like some of the other stuff that we're seeing these days in politics and all the ridiculousness that we see from quote unquote all of our quote unquote leaders. It's like it's becoming so obvious to people that the truth isn't all being told to us, and the truth is really right there, and it's so obvious at this point where we can know, hey, you guys aren't telling us the truth. Like these statistics do not lie. And that's why we look at blocktivity.info a lot, which I didn't show today. I'm sorry. But blocktivity.info gives us that kind of information.
Yeah,
now,
you guys. For you, Fuzz.
Oh, cool. Yeah. Well, what we're going to be doing, actually, I talked to Estefan, and he's going to be adding EOS in the coming weeks to this once he gets everything figured out on how to do it. But you guys will soon see EOS on there. And I suspect that once a couple dApps are running, you're going to start seeing it very much competing with EOS, with BitShares and Steam. And then I think within the coming years, you're going to see it go way above them, unless, of course, they leverage the technology in some way, shape, or form too, which, of course, I advocate. As we're building Voltron, we want multiple lions. But we're in a place where we have this technology. And I guess one of the things that I do want to bring it back to is that you guys are running a block producer. You're doing the EOS tribe thing. You have initiatives that you're running. You're doing community work. You're doing a lot of stuff. And I know, I see you guys working hard. I really do. So I know that there's a lot of craziness that comes along with it sometimes, and everybody that you work with, you can't always choose how it's always going to work out. And of course, we all do our best in a decentralized fashion to somehow get things done. We magically accomplish it. It's not always pretty, but we do accomplish it. But now that you guys are in that space and you're preparing and you've launched this announcement for being a block producer, what are you guys? What is kind of your value proposition on that? And can you guys get into this a little bit, or do you want to discuss the initiatives first, or how would you like to do it?
Well, I mean, I can give you a rundown of kind of some of our goals. I mean, we have a lot of goals, but not too many. We have, goals for being an incubator for dApps, and the first person in our incubator system for that would be Coco. But the main initiative is we're committed to the culture of mentorship. So like we want, of course, having Eugene on our team, security is really, really important. And that's something that, you might not notice or hear about because the people that are running the security, running the blocks, and all the devs and all the guys running security are behind the scenes. And they're too busy to be in front of the camera talking about the thing they did that day. Like, dear diary, like I launched the mainnet today. Like they don't have time for that kind of stuff. So we try to communicate for them. I would say that we try to communicate for the devs on behalf of the ones that, a lot of them didn't invest into marketing because they were just having fun doing their thing. And just because they didn't invest in marketing doesn't mean they shouldn't have a shared voice. So like that's something that we do through Eugene. We try to voice what their concerns are or what they're talking about behind the scenes, while at the same time we try to build community and put out things that are like data visualizations to helping people understand how this is working, because it's highly technical. Like it kind of eliminates a lot of people, but if we're able to break down that information in an educational model for the mentorship that we would like to, the position that we'd like to be in for that, I guess educating voters and token holders and helping people that want to have a token or a DAC or a DApp understand, is it worth the token? Is it, how can we make this better? How can we be making things that revolutionize the world and not are just some opportunity for some pump and dump? Like we're trying to eliminate that on this new, for me, it's a decentralized new nation on the chain. We're society, we're community, we're a culture. And so being like head of community, my main thing is to be amongst the weeds, taking temperature to, this new baby or the new society, and then being helpful in providing educational links or links to different things. But I'm not perfect. I'm not the most technical person. I just try to be a good communicator and nurturer of culture and community. So some of our initiatives are mostly content-based for education, which will open the door to mass adoption, is kind of the goal behind Steve Floyd. You'll see him speak. He spoke at Tulip about it too. The mass adoption is kind of keeping the hurdle for more investors to invest into these opportunities and stuff. And so we feel like educating the community and nurturing the community and being there to just, the tribe culture. It's something, let me step back for a second. Like we recently had a really great conference and we tried to get as many EOS people there to meet in person because we're all on Telegram virtual friends, right? We don't know who we are. Like we believe that someone is sincere and genuine and honest and transparent because we are, but you don't know till you really meet that person in person to know, like, are you who you say you are? And we were able to do that with a great group of people and have this moments, even moments of like grown-ups, like shedding tears of joy and happiness. And the consensus of the room as we went around like a big, large island in this house that we were all gathered at celebrating the launch of the mainnet and the Go vote. And we all shared like who we were and what blockchain means to us. And there's like grown people crying. There was people from Africa that, he spoke about how this is freedom for Africa. Like, and that's what really like shot home to me is, of course, I was one of the ones crying during the talk, but it's a global community. And if we can see that this global community brings about ways of freedom for countries and opportunity, and we can bridge that to be a really strong communion with people globally, then we're able to help people understand that their voice and their vote matters. And as a community, we can change what happens as it comes to like block producers or the Constitution or arbitration or anything with our vote. It actually matters now. Like the way it's set up, it really does matter. And for people to know that and get involved is kind of my personal initiative on that. And I'm really lucky to have somebody like Adam say he wants to step in and help because he was able to start initiatives like the Delete Telegram initiative, like mass exodus to Discord, because we were finding ourselves spending so much time catching up in Telegram on what had happened, 1,000 messages and all these like hundreds.
Horrible.
Yeah, we were just trying to wait for mass communications, but I'll pass that to Adam. He's more behind that.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, just to add to that, I was like gone for half a day, and I came back to like the main EOS Telegram. And there's like 5,000 messages, and I was just like, "There's no way like I can even like fathom reading like even half of these." And then just by the time I read like a little bit, there's like another 5,000 messages. But also to add, like another thing that like what we've like worked on at Tribe is Eugene has been like really behind the scenes, like working on a lot of things. Like he's been like with Ghostbusters and all the test nets and the security checks and like just even with the main net down when it what happened earlier today. Eugene was up at like he's like a little bit of an older guy.
Mm-hmm.
He's like up at 5 a.m, like on the phone with all the developer, everybody who all the other block producers.
I can tell. He makes himself go crazy sometimes, I think, because he's running around trying to get so many things done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So he just doesn't have the time to like. So what me and Anna are doing is like we're able to sit here and understand what he's saying, and then we're allowed to like we're not allowed we have the time to like sit there and explain exactly what's going on and assure people through Steam It posts or through just being a face in the community essentially, and to talk about the deleting the delete Telegram. So like the telegrams are just there's so many small, like if you look at I'm in so many EOS groups, and each one, all these groups, they all have the same visions and goals essentially for EOS, and they've just divided into smaller subgroups. But to utilize this power of a full global community, why are we not all unified into one place where you can introduce like EOS 9, like that 911 Telegram channel that they started to help people recover their keys, rather than focus efforts on getting people into the channel and then helping them all within 72 hours. It's almost on Discord. It's as easy as just adding a new channel, and it's adopted. You have the entire community is already in one place, so you can just add new things that are needed immediately right there, as well as communicate things hey, like it's just such a like mess it gets all jumbled up when things go on, like something like that happens in the telegrams, and it's just so hard to keep up.
Well, I hate to interrupt you, but I want to kind of piggyback on what you're talking about here, because you guys are looking to become a blog producer, and one of the things that struck me that I think is important to recognize was I sometimes ask questions that might be considered mean, but they're never with bad like intentions. And I don't think that you took it that way when I asked, but I asked you how, have you considered making it so the ownership of the Discord group was where it was like controlled by those voted in by the chain. And you guys even like said, I mean, if you feel free to let people know, because I think it's important for them to hear it from you. Just because that's a pretty important thing.
Yeah. So what we decided to do is we've given essentially all permissions to all the block producers. They're all allowed to do everyone's allowed the same permissions as an administrator, and we've just taken the initiative to set up the Discord, but we're going to be passing it off to EOS Go. We've made the rules within the Discord to just mimic they're the exact EOS constitution. We don't want to add any rules. We don't want to take away anybody's like freedoms or anything like that. We're open to all anyone can essentially say anything, and we'll just allow the community to like weed them out. And we don't want to make any censored or anything like that like server. So we just took the initiative to create it, and we're gonna pass off ownership over to EOS Go, and then we're just gonna everybody. But essentially, all the block producers have complete control over the Discord. There's like a lot of them in there.
Yeah, and people come in and they ask, hey, can I be moderator of this? And of course, it's like, can you prove that you're part of this? And yes, okay, well, yeah. Like it's not a guarded thing except for just proving that you are who you say you are. And then, okay, here's permissions to be admin of this or whatever. It's
really see, I was actually mistaken then. I'm sorry. I just wanted to make it clear. So it's not going to be necessarily like controlled via vote in any way. Like the ownership will not be based on the control of the EOS network. Is that the case?
No. So essentially, the specified owner tied to the server, we're just gonna pass that off to EOS Go. But essentially, the people who have control over the server are gonna be the block producers and the moderators and administrators within there. But so we also are gonna make like a community channel where they can vote on people who are abusing the power that they have been given, that they've been trusted with. If they've been found to be abusing this power and the community votes on it, then they would be removed from this position. Or since block producers have the ability to like go into other block producers' channels, and there's like a log that you can see if anyone's once again caught abusing, then they would have to go into this like community review.
Maybe we could start an arbitration hash and start it there. I mean, people talk about arbitration. How is that going to work? Like, we're not trying to like make the end all. Of course, to have a mass communications built on EOS is the goal. But for right now, like, who's going to build that? And please do, ask for Dan to help you build what he would envision mass comm to be for EOS. We were just trying to get everybody in the same place, to have those real conversations about stuff that people are talking about and are being missed when, they sleep. They sleep and they wake up and they missed a part of the conversation. To have that like dialogue documented and to be caught up right when you get back to, from what vacation or sleep or whatever, to not lose anything in that conversation is the idea. I mean, for it to mimic more like blockchain where, things are not missed out on because they're there and you can't delete them. We welcome somebody to build something bigger and better. Obviously, we're just trying to organize everyone together is kind of the goal of that.
I kind of recalled what I thought we had discussed actually was that there would be a null account that would be actually controlled by people who were voted in. So it just kind of like hit me in chain. Like kind of like confused me a little bit. So that's no longer the case. And it's nothing against EOS Go, but I will say that I think that we should be careful having any single entity control mass comms. And of course, yes, we can do that in the initial stages and say that that's okay, but it can also hold back other things in the initial stages. And I say that from the standpoint of I wouldn't, like if I were given control of them, I would say we should give them to the block producers. I will urge you guys to consider that. I won't judge it, and I'll leave it for the community to decide, but I will be clear and honest that for my like unquestionable support on it, I would prefer to see things in a more neutral manner. But that's my personal preference, right? But that doesn't take away from everything that you guys are doing and the initiatives that you're putting into it. And I know that it's not easy to do all this stuff. So it's like we also have to be very careful and say, like, you guys are doing great stuff, right? Like the Cocoa network that you're working on is going to be something that's going to be helpful for the community. You guys are trying to incubate this stuff, right? So you guys are basically incubating dApps already that might help with some of these things. So it's not like you aren't taking steps in that direction. I think that we actually need to consider that. Do you guys mind if we turn that topic a little bit to that discussion and how Cocoa and different the incubator of different projects might solve some of these problems and make it more decentralized?
Yeah. Cool. I mean, I don't want to pressure Adam to give away too much information, but But it does link together, of course. You see the link, so it's cool that you brought that up.
I mean, if you want to tell your secrets, this is the perfect place to do so.
Oh, sorry, I didn't really I didn't hear the question for some reason. It like cut me out, so I was just kind of like trying to pop in.
Oh, it's okay. Well, you did a very good smile that made it at least look like it, so we're golden. All jokes aside, how do you see the incubator and projects like Coco maybe solving some of these solutions in the medium to long term? I guess would be a better question.
So, okay, so I can like kind of talk. I'll talk a little bit about Coco, for example, to like kind of solve some issues. I'll just give an example of a use case of Coco. Since it's on the blockchain and everything will be permanent, although it's not like the way Dan believes arbitration should go, it should be on an individual case basis. But the way it's structured is kind of like on a like to answer a question with like and then it's like a tree where this pro for the answer could have even more pros and cons, and then this one could have even more pros and cons. So it's like you're structuring the context to the knowledge you're sharing, and so because there's so many different like perspectives to one answer, and to be able to see the reasoning and the context that went into someone like stating this one specific answer to this one question. So we think that like just for arbitration, that if people could go through like previous arbitration and reason through them and just kind of like put it on Coco, post it to the blockchain, get rewarded for sharing this knowledge that they're all collaborating on, and just, you know, you'll like through the rating system without getting too much into it, because I could talk forever about Coco, but so it's kind of like it'll be like all published.
Oh, they want to know about the mainnet.
Oh, feel free to continue though.
Oh yeah, sorry. So
no, it's okay.
I always stop when I see the questions.
It's okay.
So hence Coco, a question answer.
Yeah, so there's like so by having this entire like information, like essentially all the shared knowledge, you can refer back to previously like happened arbitration cases or reasoning that went into the solving, and it's all published on the blockchain. So it's not like you can argue like other things, but once again, Dan is opposed to like using precedent or even the idea of other ones. But there's gonna be some open shut cases for arbitration, and it should be good to see the previous reasoning that went into stuff like this. And we think by just documenting and keeping all the knowledge and reasoning that goes into things, like to specific answers for questions, that this could be like really useful for whatever the case may be.
Well, I always used to love Yahoo Answers, and Quora is another good one. And to offer people the ability to ask questions and those kinds of things I think are important. I think shared ownership is something that we should be definitely striving for in all ways, shapes, and forms.
Yeah.
Just obviously the level of shared ownership might be up for debate in the crypto community still, and I think that if you look at the trend in crypto communities, the actual decentralization is in the fact that there are many cryptocurrencies. Because if you look at most of the networks, most of them are relatively centralized. Mm-hmm. You'll hear a lot of people say EOS is centralized, BitShares is centralized. Steam is centralized, but I think that we follow that kind of Pareto principle on all the chains anyway, to a degree, right? Maybe to a little bit larger degree than 20%. And that's what we kind of see today, but we do have the ability to create dApps and DACs that offer that shared ownership. Now, with respect to that shared ownership, there's an incubator, and for those who are not familiar with an incubator, this is basically a group of people who are aligned to focus on helping support early little eggling projects and incubate them, so it helps to provide a sun lamp so they will stay nice and warm in their egg until they're ready to hatch. And Coco is one of those that is getting ready to hatch, I'm assuming, would be a good way of saying.
Soon.
Yeah, okay.
That's why you mentioned Quora and stuff like that, and I mean, that's kind of, that's the inspiration of being able to help people, give answers to questions, but also help people rate the answers of the question. Is it even a good answer?
Mhm.
And actually, to add to that, the problem with having centralized like servers control something like this is like when it was just an idea. Like I remember Answers.com, they just sent out like a message to all their users like, hey, thank you super users who are, thank you for contributing all your time answering questions, but we're shutting down. So it's like, imagine like someone spent their entire life just sitting there making sure they're the number one guy on Answers.com. They generated so much traffic for this website. All the people got ads, and they just lined the pockets up of whoever owned the corporation that owns Answers. And now it's like, okay, thank you for your time, bye. And now this guy has to somehow start all over on wherever he's gonna go, and it's just like there's no reason to have such like things like this be centralized and controlled when it just shouldn't be.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, look at Everpedia, and further back, just like giving people the rights to have a voice, have an opinion, instead of just being shoved answers and information, and you have to believe this, and it's shoved in your face, and you believe it because, I Googled it. And it's just like, okay, well, is there any like social proof? And that's kind of what you're looking for, is you're looking for that social proof. But also you want to be able to create job opportunities for people that want to spend their time giving the social proof or doing all that work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I would imagine that on a network like Coco, if you're one of those like dudes or dudettes who was like the answer master, like the frigging Yoda of answering, that would be a pretty big deal, and you might even carry a premium for some of your answers, or consulting might even be able to emerge from that. So I see where you guys are coming from, and I can also see how losing your account after becoming one of those answer masters, because all of that history is on a centralized database somewhere. That is, that I never thought of it in those terms, but I know for a fact that I've spent a little bit of time answering questions on there, and you do spend quite a bit of time doing it. So, Coco, I think that's a great opportunity to use a blockchain for something like this. Actually, like I think it's a great idea.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Well, I'll be hard on you guys, but I'll tell you guys where I like it too. I mean, these are the things that are like, we have to be, I think, realistic on things, but we also have to recognize that there's a lot. We're not there yet. We don't have all the tools yet. So we have to also discuss where we're going to solve these problems, which is kind of the problem with Discord and Telegram and all that, right? Like, we're using Skype today, and it's nothing against Skype in general, but we know what's going on. I mean, we're not crazy. In this world, we know that these centralized institutions are not always aligned with us, and to give the communities who run these services the ability to potentially, I mean, who knows? There might be somebody in Nigeria who's a great answerer, a little bookworm, and feeds his family, or just by answering questions from their cell phone, Exactly. Like, these are the types of things that we are opening up, and people don't realize that. They're like, oh, we're losing all these jobs, but you guys are going to create all these jobs,
Exactly.
in a way that AI cannot do. Like, we'll be able to interact in ways that we still, like, AI will only still be able to mimic us.
We'll give AI jobs. They'll be okay.
Yeah, of course. They'll go search for things for us, right? Go Fido. Yeah. But so, how do you see the token issuance? Do you guys have anything describing the token issuance yet? Is there going to be token issuance? How's that?
For Coco?
Yeah.
So without getting like very much into the details, we'll be doing an airdrop though. We're gonna airdrop about half the supply. I could say that, but we still. I just want to make sure that we get everything on our legal side covered, and before we go out and say anything, just because like
Yeah, sure.
like with being in America, like it's like walking on a minefield, and whatever you like, so you might step on something that'll piss the SEC off or something, and then I don't want to like just blow all the hard work up just because I said the wrong things. So I just want to, but we will be doing an airdrop, that I could say.
Cool. Well, it's cool to know, and the reason I'm bringing this up in the incubator under the incubator lighting, I guess, is because what you really said about the whole concept of the incubation and the importance of that is, I think, something to me that I really personally, what's the word? I'm at a loss for words on this one. I resonate with it, right? I think that this is something that's important to cover and to discuss why you guys think incubating different dApps is important as a block producer.
I mean, you want them to be successful. There's always the conversation of, should this be a token? How should we do this? And then there's people that have great ideas but don't have the business behind it, or there's people that have, bad ideas, but if it was rethought out, maybe it's a good idea. But it's just like this is the Wild West, or we're on this raging seas, and people are like jumping on boats and like, I get this thing, and can you help? And to be the mentor that's like, hey, like this part of it is a good idea, and this part's, the tokenomics of this is not really. You need to rethink this, and we have somebody that can help you rethink that with you, or hey, you have this awesome product, but how do we go to market? And we obviously have a lot of experience on marketing and going to market for things. So to be able to help them where they need help and to guide them where they need guidance is kind of the idea, because we don't want, like personally, to speak on behalf of Tribe, I try not to in this instance, but personally, we don't want a bunch of crap on the blockchain. If it can be better thought out, let's help make it something revolutionary, or make it something that makes sense and that adds value. But otherwise, it's just going to take up bandwidth and be crap. Like and you don't want that. So you want to try to help people figure out where their place is and how to be successful at that. Is kind of, I guess, my explanation of the idea of the incubator. I'm sure other people could add more to it.
And just from being like on the inside, like I guess from also both perspectives, it's being like even like just a share, like going through it is like you really realize how much like it goes to turning your idea into like actually something real and tangible, and actually like sometimes people who have this idea and they have the motivation, you just don't know what you don't know, So by
actually, showing, I do know.
by just like showing, like it's like you see everything, and some people are like very specialized in certain things, and they can show you like how you can optimize it in certain instances, and what's the best. Like I was saying before, like Steve told me not to go down certain routes that I'm seeing projects hit now that they're hitting walls, and they're just gonna have to like backtrack so far that it would have just been time wasted. Even though he was like, just sit on your hands, like don't do anything yet. And I'm just like
don't overthink it.
Yeah, that's what he said. He said the biggest thing is like when tokens start trying to add a whole bunch of things, and you just end up like building for the rest of your life and just never actually creating anything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's called scope creep, right? I think for the newbies out there, it's when you think that I'm going to start out with this little painting, and then you're like, oh, well, I can add this in there, and then I can add this. Man, it would be really nice to put this entire scene in a garden. Well, the garden, where's the garden going to go? Oh, the garden is on a planet. I need to draw the entire planet now.
Yeah.
So it's like, well, that's a lot bigger than the initial garden and the initial portrait that's within the garden. So it's like, yeah, I can see where, and it works for, that's like an art example for the newbies out there, but that's something that I think is important to recognize too. It's not just, advertising and supporting in those ways, but sometimes it's telling you what not to do.
Yeah.
You know, like, don't step this far. No, man, that painting is beautiful. You know, like, add a little bit to the garden, just a little bit to like hint toward the garden and let people think about it.
Yeah.
And then leave it at that, you know, and then end it with the stylish ending and give the impression that you want to without having to go too deep into it. But I think that the expertise that you guys offer is something that, digital marketing and as I see what Steve's doing behind the scenes all the time. He's what do you call that? A jack of many trades, I believe. Maybe he has a gesture hat or something somewhere that I don't know of. But I do see him doing a lot of different things. So it's good to see active members. Now, you guys have just announced your block producer not too long ago.
It was a few.
About what? A couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago.
I think longer than that. Let me get an actual date. Hate to quote stuff and not have a date on that. So our official announcement was. Oh wow, we've done a lot. Okay.
I know you guys came on and discussed it. I just don't remember the exact date.
So it was 2 months ago.
Was it 2 months ago already? My gosh.
Yeah,
we've done a lot of these, haven't we? Yeah, and we're here with the live net actually, you know. So
yeah.
Some of these things are really good.
It was a myth like a week ago, like 3 weeks ago, or about
And it's like 6 months, and it was 3 months ago.
Oh, well, I was just informed for sure that Steven's been in it for 6 months with Eugene, and for 3 months we had a candidacy. 3 months ago is when we started.
3 months ago. 3 months ago.
Man, it's crazy. It's crazy. Like sometimes, like all these kind of run together. You know. So,
it's the reason it's confusing is for 3 months. For 3 months, they decided to be block producer candidates, and then they didn't do the official announcement on Steam until 2 months ago. That's why it's quite confusing. But they've been thinking about it for a long time and wanted to make sure that they could actually uphold to what was needed as a block producer. So for 3 months, they've been in on it, and then 2 months they announced officially the candidacy.
Got you.
That makes sense.
How would you guys recommend if somebody was going to vote for you? How would you recommend them doing that?
I would say it's your preference on. I would recommend Scatter in the voting portal because it was a community-driven initiative. People in the community and Telegram group started to freak out, like, how are we going to vote? And there wasn't a tool made. So the community banded together to create a portal and actually raise money. Katie Roman helped raise money for that portal to pay for guys' times. And after building it, the guys that were working on it, which was Nathan James and Steve Floyd, and they and maybe some others I'm missing. I'm sorry that they denied the money. They said to use the money raised for a community hackathon as an initiative for a hackathon for the community. So I would say the portal because it has more heart. Like there's more there. It was something that the community came to and did. Of course, other people step in after that and create their versions of voting portals, and everyone has their preference. But I don't know. I'm a community-driven person, so like I don't know. I feel like it has more heart and soul when I vote using the voting portal, and I don't know.
And one of the reasons why I ask about that is because, you know, a lot of people are new to even having, like, if they're into cryptocurrency, many of them, do you remember when you first got your first Bitcoin, your first Bitcoin wallet?
Yeah.
Like, and then you go and look at the wallets that we have in BitShares and here, and it's like, wow, that's a pretty steep learning curve. You know what I mean? And not only that, but one of the issues that we do have still to this day, and something that we should definitely always continue talking about until it's fixed, is that we don't necessarily have a place where all the verified to be safe apps exist yet, right? Or services that have been verified to be safe are available. So we kind of have to say, who do you trust to vote for you, like as far as the service for them to vote for you? Because there are people out there who are going to create services that are literally going to act like the service itself. You're not going to ask any questions. You're going to be like, I voted. Oh, where are my tokens?
Yeah.
And that's really how it can go. So, these are some things that I think that we need to continue recognizing. And who better, in my opinion, to ask this question than people who are block producer candidates?
To add to that, today actually, like not too long ago, we were talking about creating a tool where people can check the domains and links of the tools that they're about to use, like cross-check it in this tool to make sure that they're not about to like go into a phishing site, like with the EOS Authority, where the I had the whatever, like
there's
simple things by having a trusted website supported by maybe just created by a block producer, maybe endorsed by other block producers, where they can paste the links in there and make sure they're about to use the tool that they wanted and not be subject to like some phishing scam or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because let's face it, and I will continue pressing this upon the newbies, be very careful. There are some sly dogs out there, and they're smart, and I've been scammed. I haven't been scammed in that way, but there's a lot of ways that you can be scammed in the crypto space, and a lot of people earn a lot of money doing it. So it's not like we don't need to worry about that stuff. There's a level that even with that, you're taking on this extra responsibility with this extra freedom that comes with it, right? So what better to do than to trust the people who are saying, hey, I don't want you to lose funds by voting for us. But I like the idea of a consensus between block producers. I also like the idea of having the block producers have the ability to see all the options that are available and look over them. I think that and the community effort in general. Then if you find a block producer that's voting for all these scam apps, then that's not going to be a block producer you want to keep either.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
But yeah, there's a lot I think that we need to do now. Before I keep going though, we do have a segment always for people to ask questions. So do you guys mind if we open that up since we're about at that time?
Yeah, no, I'm just gonna switch very quickly because I was to my laptop from my phone again.
Sure. That was quick.
Yeah, for us too. I mean, we should with some of the questions that are coming in, I think both on my side and over on Compound Stream, a lot of it has to do with what's going on with the launch, how the chain was, say, unlocked, and what's going on with the block producers now, the switch up in the ranks, and how we're either seeing or how it can lead into either collusion or corruption in the ranks of the block producers. And I'm hoping if Steve is there in the background or somewhere, if he can chime in on that, because I know he's very vocal, and I love hearing his opinion on a lot of this stuff.
I think Steve would love to. He's asking me for a link. He can't. There's no option in Discord to jump on audio. He would love to jump on this.
Yeah, no, it has to be through Skype since we're all on the Skype channel tonight.
So let me get.
Yeah, I think that we talked about this a little bit. Go ahead. Sorry.
It looks like. It looks like we're number 19. Looks like we're in. Let me confirm. I just now saw this.
Just to add to that while we wait, I guess that's the power of having a selection.
Oh, you're cutting out, Adam. You might need to switch back.
Oh, my phone died.
Oh.
Okay, I'll try yelling maybe. That works.
That's not correct. Yeah, yell, please.
Yeah, so that's like the benefit of having this perpetual election system, where when you see that block producers who have vocalized such issues.
Yeah, we're having problems on your, unfortunately, on your computer.
Okay. So let's just get question.
Let's rock. Sorry.
No.
Had to do that.
Okay, I'm back.
You guys opened up that echo pattern for me.
Oh, sorry.
Had to drop a beat.
Yeah, so what I was saying was when you see that some block producers who have vocalized certain missions, and then once they have been elected in, and you realize that these were just them playing like political things, and it's like the beauty of having a liquid democracy is people can constantly switch in and out, and you can make sure that the people that are like the top 21 block producers actually really do have the network's interests in mind. And as soon as their interests are not aligned, they can just be dropped and then replaced with a better supporting block producer.
Yeah, now see, some of the discussion that's been coming up in the different telegrams, whether it's a block producer channel or governance and stuff, there was an opinion being voiced about how the chain actually went live, how it was unlocked, with the exchange of Big One coming in, or Big Dot One coming in, putting down that monster vote to basically unlock the chain, and then pulling out the vote afterwards. People were basically coming up with the discussion saying this is opening up a precedence of how either exchanges can come in or certain groups, like we see block producers coming up the ranks now on the Asian side, that are pools. So they're almost like traditional Bitcoin mining pools, but they're with EOS, coming in with weight behind them, voting in the. Excuse me.
Can you hear me? This is Steve. I jumped on the call. I was
Hey, perfect. Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah.
I was summoned. Someone was talking about collusion and lack of independence, and I just immediately woke up and put on my cape and I came on.
That's fantastic. Yeah, this is Power Picks, by the way. So
Fuzzy, you know that we've been around since January and February, and you always clown us to be like, "Oh, would y'all jump in 2 or 3 weeks ago? Eugene did the first event."
No. Well, I'm not going to get into that with you right now. We'll discuss that. There's another topic that's at hand, but I will definitely debate whatever you want to behind the scenes. Anyway,
that's the extended version of EOS Talk tonight. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's simply me getting the time wrong. Don't take it too long.
We've been around for 7 months. Everybody out there that watches this, we've been around 7-8 months in the ecosystem.
Oh, I'm not saying that. Hey, hold on, man. I'm just going to cut you off here because I'm not trying to argue with you. It was simply a misunderstanding. I wasn't even saying what I think that you're thinking I was saying. So don't worry about it. But there is a bigger topic that I think that we're wanting to discuss, if you would like to discuss it.
What's that?
Well, Steam Power Picks brought up the way that the chain was launched and that you had concerns about it. Excuse me.
Well, it's other people in Telegram. I mean, there was a whole debate going back and forth, and even Thomas Cox had kind of put his voice behind it too. But I mean, with respect to Thomas for what he does, it's great, but his answers sometimes are very, very short and almost have hidden messages behind him. So he's not very direct when he answers a lot of people on Telegram.
Everyone needs to get this straight about the facts of what happened, okay? Our team, Ghostbusters and Core, was a research environment that was basically just trying to find security flaws. It was just a test net. And over 2 weeks, or I think a week and a half went by, the week 4 or 5 days prior, and the rev up, and then about 6 days or something prior, about a week and a half altogether, of the other group, which who will remain nameless in this, that was trying to stand up the chain, and they couldn't do it. I mean, they could not do it. So our group was tapped by Jim and some other security professionals who came in and said, you know who they were. You saw all the posts about it. And they tapped that group and said, look, can you guys do it? Oh, yeah, we're already producing blocks. We're going through activation. We're just testing. They're like, well, hey, you guys try to stand it up. And the other part of it was there was gaping security holes that were dependent on the process to stand up the chain with the other process. And they said in their post, oh, no, and we want to really put this behind us because it just causes more division. But any kind of claims of centralization or any of that, or the way the chain was stood up, they're not understanding the argument. They were just trying to get the damn thing live. That's all it was. They were just like, hey, who can stand up the chain? And
that's what I was thinking. I was going to say something similar.
They basically just went to the guys who could. Who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. That's what happened. That's literally what happened. So the people, it goes to show right now that the people who are falling off who are causing errors, who haven't updated their BP JSON file, who are running outdated software, forking the chain, are a problem, and they're just using their stake to make inflation off the network, and they're not adding any value. We're not going to say who, but we think that voters know the difference. We're fiercely independent. We self-fund everything. We have not tapped any VC, any of those networks. We've done all of this ourselves up to this point, and put off our own core businesses and our livelihood to do this. So know that if you vote for us, you're voting for the people that you want in here, the technical talent, the people with heart. You have this movement in our blood. And let's be honest, crypto's not ever going to make it out of this phase until we get real adoption. So good UX, good design, good usability, and really good tech and real use cases are what's going to get us to the next phase. And that's what we stand for. So, I mean, a lot of people.
Here's my take on it. And I hate to interrupt you, but we were having a discussion as you would imagine, I have many discussions, even when we're not doing it live. And one of the discussions that we were having regarding this was block producers. If they are not producing blocks, or they're not doing it as well as they should, and there are other candidates that are doing the job far better on it from a technical perspective, that is the primary.
It irritates some of us. It does. I mean, if anyone wanted to really know, yes, it does. That paradigm irritates those of us who, put in blood, sweat, and tears to try to make this happen, and to do it for the right reasons, and to put it towards, the ecosystem, not just like buy a bunch of crap. And I mean, we already have what we need. We have our families. We have a good home. We're stable. Like family men. We want to do this to improve the ecosystem. And to see that paradigm y'all are talking about, it's disheartening. It is, to see people throw around their votes, just to try to get inflation off the network and not have added no value. We know who they are. And I'm not bad-mouthing those people. I can certainly understand the economic incentive, but I would just ask that they, the whales out there, redistribute their votes. Look at the guys that are in here fighting the good fight, and that really care. I mean, because we really are gonna be up 18-hour, 20-hour days, working on this and making sure that the right things are in place for this ecosystem to grow. And it doesn't take a lot of capital. Everyone thinks it takes deal flow and a lot of capital. That's one component, but it takes a lot of passion and drive and innovation and people who know how to execute. And unfortunately, a lot of people with capital have lost touch with that. I think we all know that. So to go back to your point, Steam Picks and Fuzzy, like, that's unfortunate that the token holders have that perception, but no, there is a base of people who deeply care, about doing this the right way and have been here the whole time, and we're trying to turn that around and educate people. But a lot of the perceptions are dissuaded by even you guys in the media not keeping up with who is really getting in there and swinging, like you guys would do a better service to your audience to be on, to have a list of updated candidates.
Well, actually, that's something that we talked about at the Tulip Conference. And since you bring it up, I will mention one of the things that I'm doing with my stake is if people join up and they tell me about what they're doing and they talk me into voting for them, I will vote for them. And I have substantial stake.
I know you do, Fuzzy, but dude, you're like a brother, dude. I don't care if you vote for us or not. I'm not pandering.
Well, no, that's not the point. But the reason why I say this is because I'm going to be doing it in a way we're going in that route. Of course, obviously,
I don't get paid delegation. You're going to
and I don't get paid for this either. To be clear, I've paid well over $500,000 over the course of the year toward a bunch of things that would help our community in general. Right. So it's not a small amount of funding. And it's one of those things where we still do what we can, because we can't do it all. But what we're going to be doing this week is we're going to be having an initiative that SBP talked about earlier, which is going to be allowing the community, because I'm not for being the guy who's the central guy around everything. I want to kind of organize the community to do that. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a thing where anybody can write about their voting experience using any of the voting. So what we're going to do is we're going to reward people for tokens for that.
EOS Rio, Simple EOS, and Gray Mass, and the EOS voting portal are the safest ones we recommend. we overall, I mean, if you're going to go web-based, the EOS portal is probably the best right now. That's not to say there won't be others. And the gray matter or the gray mass and obviously the the Rio EOS Simple tool seem to be this. I have not used EOS Calgary's tool. I heard Sandwich worked on that, and that one's really good too.
Well, Sandwich is a great guy. I trust him. And I will say, you're more than welcome when we do this to participate and as a block producer, give the list of things that of voting portals that you trust. We want you guys to do that. Actually, we did that. I just asked you guys that before he got on. Right?
Well, disclosure, I did do the UX for the voting portal, but I took no part in any code, and I did not take any compensation.
And that's for eosportal.io, correct?
Yeah, that's for eosportal.io. Just to give full disclosure to the community, I did work on the design, but I did not actually touch a line of code or anything. That's 90%. And NS James and Cesar actually did most of that. And
you guys all work together to produce something that the EOS portal is what I plan on using. I've been preparing to, how do I say this? I'm going to be voting on block producers as they come on, and I'm going to leverage my stake to ask them questions and do what I want to do to get my vote.
Well, is that collusion? Could that be seen as collusion or influence?
Well, I mean, it's going to be live, so if anybody wants to watch me colluding with my own money, I guess they can do that. But I assure you, if they call it collusion, then they should probably look at my bank account and wonder why the hell I don't have my house paid off and I spent $500K toward a bunch of stuff in crypto for people. But, I mean, we could go that route, but we won't. I'm sure it'll come up at some point in time, though, because you can't make everybody happy, right?
Well, I would say just vote for the little guys like EOS Detroit, EOS Sphere, EOS HK, HK EOS. A lot of the guys on the Ghostbusters team did a lot of hard work, man, and they are not getting rewarded for it at all. They're not. And if the community really wants to come together, look closely at the Ghostbusters initiative and what those guys did by setting up the security standards that's kept the chain up. And that's for the benefit of all the token holders. These guys just want to produce blocks. They just want to be in the mix and help keep the chain up. They love it. And if you saw the passion and drive in some of these engineers, man, it's just really disheartening to see them fall so far down in the ranking. They deserve it, and
I would love to hear more from them. Why don't we set stuff up for them to join up too? What I want to do is I want to bring people like you guys on to discuss these things so the community can decide, right? I mean, I can only do so much as one person and with a family and helping other chains and trying to build Voltron and all that stuff that goes with
How's
it.
How's Voltron coming along?
Voltron is, we have the world's first cross-chain tokens that have been in use for over a year before SMTs existed. So,
and everybody said you were crazy.
Everybody said I was crazy, and we've built a lot with it, man. And we've helped a lot of people. So it's been part of the journey. And I've met you. I've argued with you. I've hugged you. And we've we've gotten along well, man. It's been a good ride, and I will say that I agree with you. I think that people who are missing blocks, that's a big no. And second off, that's the ultimate no. If you're not producing frigging blocks, you don't have a blockchain. So right there, I won't even go too much further into that other than to say it's ridiculous that I should even have to say it. But I will say that there is that other element, and that we were talking about that a little bit too, which is the incubator type of element, right. Which is something that was important. That I think that all block producers should consider leveraging that. Obviously, I think that we can have pools where you join it and you get dividends, but then again, dividends are something that is going to bring in the SEC. It's going to bring all these other things too. So it's if we can.
I said this on the BP panel at Tulip that got a lot of people cheering over it. That the role of a block producer, you are a liquid. You are literally a liquid, accelerator. You have the bandwidth to provide for these dApps to function, and it's in your best interest as a block producer to stake for those dApps, but it's also our responsibility as consummate professionals and entrepreneurs, experienced entrepreneurs, to make sure they aren't garbage, as Adam said. That's something that I've instilled in him, is that we will not put out some hokey crap. We will not associate with hokey crap. Like, go to Ethereum for that stuff. Go to one of the other chains for that stuff. We want real use cases. We want really new cutting edge killer dApps. So people see, and we set the gold standard of like, wow, those guys have some of the best ideas, some of the best UX and use cases in the space. And then that's what unlocks capital. That's what creates deal flow, because people want to work with those kind of people. And we know the difference. So we might come off, and I think what's happened is, because of our like branding and messaging, we came off a little idealistic, but no, we're a BP with teeth. Like, Eugene's no joke. He's got an MBA, a PhD in computer science. I've been in the weeds for 20 years building businesses. I've sold businesses. I've managed my own P&L, and it ain't my first rodeo. You know what I'm saying? And I'm passionate because I care, you know, and if that turns some people off, so be it, you know, but I speak from heart and a place of heart, and anybody that knows us know that EOS Tribe has a heart as big as Texas, and we care about this space. You know, we do, like, we really do, man. We want entrepreneurs to win and to get out of this debt cycle and this cluster fail that is like the current, you know, boom and bust, like, you know, economy. You have the end of the business cycle. Everyone consolidates. Everyone's leveraged to the hilt with credit. They pump a bunch more liquidity in. And there's just better modes and better ways to do this stuff. I mean, we're experiencing a completely different, example of behavioral and economic models that we've never seen before. Yeah. So it's really hard for the incumbent system to understand, like, what we're talking about. It's hard for some of our peers to understand. Even within crypto, if you talk to an Ethereum or a Bitcoin person, they're just totally brainwashed. They don't understand the vision, you know, and those of us who do, come 3 or 4 years, it's going to be a different conversation. It's going to take a while, but I think people like you, Fuzzy, Steam Power Picks, and a lot of your crew that know you have your way of doing it too, and you have your visions too, and we all have different vantage points, but when it comes down to it, we need each other. Yeah. You know, we do, you know, because we're our best bet to really get this message out, you know, whether we like it or not. You know, sometimes we all have to take humble pie and just, you know, knee and just like, because I do that with you, Fuzzy. You've given me a lot of wisdom about token distributions and, you know, how important it is to always stay under that Satoshi 10 for your core team. Make sure you redistribute that for worker proposals. You redistribute it for bounties, and you give it back to the community, because that's your core. That's what creates the value in the coin, you know, and most people don't understand that. They jump in and just take 50, 60, 70% of the token and consolidate. And then they wonder why it's worthless in 6 months, because there's no value. There's no upside for anybody who's participating. So those fundamentals that Fuzzy preaches, man, like he may be goofy and have his own way of doing stuff, and you may not agree, but the fundamentals of what Fuzzy talks about, everybody in this space should listen to, because he ain't kooky on that, but he knows his shit, you know. Anyway, sorry.
Well, I will let you continue talking good about me. I mean, that's the one rule that I was going to say people can ask questions to you guys, but if you want to continue along that line of thinking,
people ask questions.
No, that's fair enough.
I pay it forward. You know, I give you a rough time because
you give me both.
Hey, quick question. Hey, what's going on, Steve Floyd?
What's up, Frank? Big Frank.
Everybody on BeyondBitcoin.club right now is asking about the halt today of the main chain. I guess, can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah, there was if you go to our post on Steam It on EOS Tribe, we have an overview of everything that happened in the official announcement. Basically, there was a bug that caused a lot of problems with the core producers. I'm not going to lay that on any one person, because it really wasn't anyone's specific fault. It was actually a bug, a legitimate bug that Dan patched, and they basically rebooted the whole chain, and that's what we're going through right now. So that process of repopulating votes, like, you know, starting from the last block and everything that those guys have to go through is they're doing right now. And I mean, some of these guys had been up since 3 or 4 in the morning last night and had to wake up to this with 2 hours of sleep and are still working on it right now. Guys like Eugene, Guys like Eric from EOS, from Sweden, are, and Mao and his team are on this like nonstop. EOS 42, Charles and them, and all the core VPs that are in the top 21 are working around the clock right now to make sure that it gets back up. And I don't make any excuses for it. This is beta software. Like, we have never launched a chain this way. Almost all chains start centralized, and they debug it and they pen test it for like 3 or 4 months, and then they start taking on public nodes. In this instance, the software was released and actually launched by the public. So we're experiencing something that has never been done before. And if you ask me, it's phenomenal. Like, I'm global 100% consensus in the first week, launched the chain, not a single block missed for a lot of the top producers. Some had made mistakes, and that's getting weeded out. As we speak, we're going to see this new liquid democracy take action. And our voice right now, how we've put out awareness the last few days since we got back from Tulip, because we've been so busy, our votes are coming in. We went up from 7 million, almost 10 million votes from like within 3 or 4 hours, just from people realizing like, wait a minute, these are some of the guys like really involved heavily in this stuff. Like, we need to reallocate our votes. So I think as time goes on, the people who have heart, even if they don't have a ton of money, but they have a little bit, they can get by, but they have the hardware like we do. We have one of the best, no one knows this, but EOS Tribe has one of the most sophisticated setups, like network setups and co-location setups in the entire ecosystem right now that we set up and bought. No VC, nothing. Not Amazon Cloud, not Google. And I don't want to go off on a big pulpit about that to the token holders, but it's a real thing, man. Like, care about that stuff, because you're not really decentralized if you're on Amazon. You know what I mean? They could shut us down in an instant. Pay attention to the guys that spent the money and time to set it up the right way. And that does matter. Even if I'm a little brutish and sometimes I'm opinionated, I'm the mouthpiece sometimes for that stuff. Why you saw some of our people today is because we're focusing a lot on community. Right now, like, Adam and Anna have been brought on to help lead a more positive, laid-back message. I often am in the weeds and driving campaigns, and I'm not the best person to ask because I haven't slept 2 hours a day. I'm trying to pull all the levers and make sure everything's moving. So, we need to get better communication in place for our token holders, and why Adam and Anna are on, and also because we have a culture of mentorship. We believe, bring up the little guy. Why can't Adam be on the call? Why can't Adam speak for himself and his mission and coming along with us? Like, why do I have to always be the mouthpiece? In that regard, I understand where you're coming from, Fuzzy. When you just get tired of it, you're like, oh man, they want me for another interview. What do I got to do now?
It's just that you realize after a while that you want to bite off more than you can chew, I think. And then you want to take more off your plate, and then you're, at least in my case, I become an idiot again and I put more on my plate. So I don't know, like,
simplify. We've all talked about that. The whole community agrees. You could simplify and do a bi-weekly or a bi-monthly show.
We'll discuss that. That's less about me though, and more about you guys, because we do have 5 minutes left, and we do want to open everything up for the community. Yeah. And I'll have that discussion with you for an hour and a half to 2 hours. But for sure, we can discuss that. I do want to make sure, though, that anybody, because the primary reason, obviously, I have my thoughts on matters, and I want people to hear my thoughts on matters, and I've been around long enough that I think a lot of the things that I have to say can offer some insight, or at the very least, prove to me that I need to learn more. But in the end, we're here trying to figure something out, and we're trying to let the community kind of also interact with you guys and ask any questions that they might have. So if there's anybody who has any final questions, feel free to use the time available right now. Otherwise, you're probably just going to hear me and Steve and the crew here talk about, probably some finishing up stuff. But I do want to open it up for you guys if you do have any questions.
Can I throw in one more question?
Right.
So I guess I'll throw in two. One person asked, what service are you running? Second, I guess, what do you think about, the Asian, the BPs out of Asia, and all these talk about the BPs?
Okay, what do you mean by what services are we running? What
server. What
Oh,
server?
yeah, the server specs.
If you go back to our initial announcement post, we go to EOS Tribe, it has our announcement post. We actually listed every single component in a spreadsheet with pricing, when it was bought, and full transparency. Like you can go back and click on Geronimo, our server, and look at all the specs, like every single component, the RAM. It was both servers I actually built myself. And I wasn't even a hardware guy when I started on it. I ended up one, but I was just so driven to try to house all of our data. And then I ended up being able to use that server for this because it just fit perfectly. It had all the right configurations. It's a really beefy server, man. Go look at it, dude. It's no joke, man. That thing's a monster. But as far as the Asian BPs, we have a lot of respect for and I'm not being political here, for a lot of the Asian VP operations, man. I mean, they're on it. Like they have, a lot of them have critical infrastructure set up. They have like redundancy. They're very sharp. They're on it. I mean, I can't speak for the entire space, but let's be honest. Most of the whales and the token holders are over in Asia, and a lot of Western VPs would be well served to create a dialogue with them rather than pointing to collusion and blanket comments, because it's very divisive. I think even people in Asia could agree it's been a whales election, but that doesn't mean that those whales won't eventually do their research and want to invest more in good teams, because it actually increases their token price. You know what I mean? They make money by making sound investments on the right teams. And, like I always say, we were built for this. I mean, me and Eugene, literally our careers leading up to this point, we were literally made to do this. You know what I mean? You could not pick a better team in the U.S. who has all of those touch points. We're lacking openly to the community and outreach over in Asia. So it's funny that you mentioned that. I would say that the biggest thing that we could all do as a community is try to open up better dialogue with Asia to better understand their BP operations before we make judgments. And that would be a little bit of wisdom that I would try to impart on the community. Let's get the numbers. Let's actually see who's not performing, who's not updated, and then let's make a critical assessment. But for now, let's not just blame it on Asia. They have more people. They're going to have more nodes.
Yeah. For me, I think that we're in a place where essentially the chain is so new and people don't realize, when a chain is so new, there are going to be things that need to be, ironed out. Everything's not going to roll out perfectly. And given how it's rolled out, it's been done pretty damn well. Yeah. I've actually been very surprised watching as it's happened, kind of just seeing that the community has really pulled together on a lot of fronts. And obviously, we all play our own little rules that add up to what happened. But it's not like there aren't going to be hiccups along the way, I think is an important thing for especially newbies to know.
Oh yeah. This is the first 2 weeks the chain has been, even in existence, from activation to going live to, being actually voted in and unlocked, that this is a process. There's going to be another 3 to 4 months that are going to define the serious players, and the guys who are real serious, who are real serious about it are going to rise to the top. So all these little guys that a lot of people are writing off or don't think have the chops are going to realize, wow, these 4 or 5 guys, this little 4 or 5, 8-man team, we're up to about 6 people now, 7 people now. We may be a 12-person team, by then, and have 2 or 3 core engineers and 2 or 3 UX people, and already have a few dApps in the ecosystem. And, that's what's going to define who moves forward, and continues to weather all this FUD and keeps the value moving in the ecosystem. Those are the people that I think are going to be rewarded the most, but we'll see.
Can I chime in on that real quick? It's just really fast. We don't want to lose the whole idea behind the value of what we're trying to push forward. Getting that lost within who is making the most money being a block producer or whatever. we're all going for the same thing.
Anna, for some people, that's what it's about, though. You know, for some.
I understand, but like as a community, like as the community hears that, like
I think balance. Like our message is balance.
Yeah.
That we are, you know, certainly we believe in the movement, but there are some operations, a lot of VCs, and just to disclose to the community, a lot of the big whales have said that a lot of these guys are just too idealistic. They're so bought in this ANCAP politics and this really hardcore left view. You know, we're kind of centrist. We're balanced and kind of moderate. We certainly are strong libertarians, but we're not so left field that we, you know, think that certain core infrastructure shouldn't be there. Banks inherently aren't bad. Centralization is bad. I mean, banks could be good. I mean, if banks would evolve with all this, I certainly would probably store some of my assets on a ledger in a bank, you know, if it was a significant amount. I mean, banks still have utility, you know, but it's just the centralization and the corruption are the problems because of a lack of transparency. And that's something that this technology will solve. So, you know, look for people that are centrist in the middle and not so far left field or so business process and money driven. You know, we want, just like Kevin from EOS New York often said, we want enough liquidity and reward to attract the talented people, but not enough for the corruption.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
So that's what we're seeing right now. These big BPs and whales are through all this money thinking, oh, we'll get all this money. And when they count it and they cash it out and they pay their taxes on it, you're like, this was not, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. Why do we do this? And you're going to see them fall off. I'd rather stake this over here, put it into a DApp. I can make 10 times more money. Why am I putting it over this BP operation? I can make way more, right? So that's what's going to happen. And I believe over the next, 4 to 6 months is the whales that were backing these operations are going to see it really wasn't worth the stake, and they're going to put it in other places or liquidate. So, which is a good thing, because then the little guys who are serious can rise to the top, So.
Well, I thank you guys for joining up. We are about 3 minutes over, and I like to try to keep it about an hour and a half or under. But it's been a great conversation with you guys. I'm glad to hear your opinions, and that I'm glad for the people who joined up to ask some questions tonight. These are here for you. So if somebody joins up every week to discuss something and you have questions that you'd like to ask them, that's here for you to do so. Obviously, if you're a troll or something, we're going to kick your ass off. But if you're respectful and you're honestly doing something of value that we think, is something that is important to discuss, which if you look at my track record is pretty much, I don't think I've really ever censored hardly anything in any of my probably 600 hangouts at this point in time. But we do reserve the right if you decide that you're going to come in and not be producing valuable discussion. But that aside, this is here for you guys to ask questions. For people who are holders, you don't really get this opportunity anywhere else, guys. I want to make it very clear. We've been doing this for a long time. And we've been doing this for the community to be able to ask the questions that might not otherwise be asked, that I might not even be necessarily inclined to ask due to certain reasons, right? I try to open it up so you can ask those questions, so you can bring those things up. Because sometimes looking at the ugliest sides of things are necessary for us to improve and stay away from that darker side, right? And stay in the light, so to speak. So one of the important things and the philosophy behind these is to offer guest speakers like yourselves and guests who are listeners and the opportunity to interact as well. And I appreciate everybody who does participate in these events and everybody who is here for asking these questions. And those of you who are listening, and of course, you can always upvote our content or share it with friends. And we have eostalk.io. A lot of people will post to Steam it, but I do want to let everybody know that we do post to eostalk.io due to early censorship from somebody in the person with the most control over Steam. So we created eostalk.io so EOS type of things would not be censored, and also so we could allow you guys to have something that shows that this technology works today before EOS existed. So if you guys are leveraging that stuff, please recommend you guys to all consider telling people about the eostalk.io site and your profiles there. So you can actually have posts that will not have to worry about being censored. Now, with that said, how would you say people can contact you if they would like to reach out to you regarding any of the things that we've discussed tonight, the incubator, the voting on your blog producer, the political aspect of it, Coco, any of these things? If people want to contact you, what would be an easy way to do so?
You could go to eostribe.io to our website, and that has all of our contact information. Our block producer name is EOSTribe PROD. That's our production node to vote for us. And as far as Coco, you could go to cocoqo.io to get more information and what relevant channels to follow. Coco is our first DApp in our incubator that we are staking tokens to support and kind of bringing into the ecosystem. So super excited. We just got the nod for some just talked to our angel investor today, and we just got the nod. So should have some good things in the coming weeks rolling out about that. So we have a formal, just so everyone knows, we have a former Google employee number 52 and a Apple employee of 20 years, a project lead, who is actually going to be angel investing in the project. So we've got some pretty serious advisors coming on. So super excited about that.
Could I also, somebody asked something about how do we find transparency with BP's audit reporting on spending?
There's a BP, Anna, I can answer that question. There's a BP dashboard that we are going to put on our new site in the coming weeks, probably in the next 2 or 3 weeks, that will show you our public wallet address and where those transactions go to. So we're asking all BPs to do that. It'll be uptime, how many blocks we produced, if we missed any blocks, everything will be on our new website in a little tab, basically, for anyone to audit at any time. And that's based on, we forked it, and it was based off EOS SoCal's BP transparency dashboard. We added a few new things and made it look pretty, and that's how we're going to operate. So if anybody ever wants to audit us, you can see exactly where we're spending our money. No questions asked. I mean, just reach out to us. We'll answer we're super available. Like anything you need from us, any help you need in the community, we're always here. Everybody knows that about Tribe.
Well, I appreciate you guys taking the time. And I appreciate, again, everybody who participates in these weekly. You guys are really doing something that I think is important for the space. I really do love the idea of seed funding and doing things like this for different, and of course, like you said, incubating, just like giving other value propositions to these growing dApps. Because if we can do that, and I think if the block producers advocate for share drops and leverage their expertise to do that, they're going to not only get a lot of share drops on us and make our token a premium token, thus driving the price up of every token that they earn, but they're also going to find that the connections that they make by doing that over time are going to be where the real gold mine is. And I think that the people with the vision to understand that are going to go very far. That's my personal opinion. Maybe I'll prove wrong, but I personally think that that's one of the smartest routes for us to go. And we'll see if I'm right in the future. I tend to be pretty confident in it, though. I think that that's the route that we should be going. So with that said, thank you for joining up. And, of course, meet us here every Saturday. Unless, of course, there are small instances when it doesn't happen. But generally every Saturday you will see us here at 8 p.m. Eastern. So thank you, everybody, for participating in another EOS Talk, where we are trying to create communities for all kinds of different blockchains and showing people what we offer and building an entire ecosystem beyond Bitcoin. So thank you for everybody participating in it and making this possible, and we will see you next week.